I'd like to now introduce our special guest speaker. He has consistently served and committed himself to both human and animal rights, world peace, environmental preservation, and political freedom. And while my partner Julie and I would really we'd like to think that we were the first people that handed him his 9/11 video. We were all secret about it. Ed, you gotta see this video, it's gonna blow your mind. We are eternally grateful to him for his courage to stand up at this time, as well as his courage in speaking out against US policy in Central America, which has for far too many years left millions of people devastated and natural resources devoured. He is perhaps best known as the gruff but soft-hearted journalist Lou Grant from the TV newsroom comedy The Mary Tyler Moore Show. He continued the role in the newspaper set drama Lou Grant, which won him oodles of Emmys and Golden Globe Awards. He's received several awards for the miniseries Rich Man, Poor Man, Roots as well, bringing his total, if you're counting, to 7 Emmy Awards and 5 Golden Globe Awards. And he was inducted into the TV Academy Hall of Fame and served as national president of the Screen Actors Guild. He was honored in 2002 by the Guild with the prestigious Life Achievement Award, which is given for career and humanitarian accomplishment presented annually to an actor who fosters the highest ideals of the profession. While you may know him best as Lou Grant, I personally can't help but think of him as the voice of God. It was a role he shared with Ellen Burstyn in the audio tape versions of Conversations with God. Probably you haven't heard it, but it's awesome. And I've got to say, Ed, if there really is a God out there, I hope he's a lot like you. Kind of scary at first, but then when you get to know him, you don't want to leave his side. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a dear friend at KPFK and a dear friend of mine, Mr. Ed Asner.
Thank you. Thank you. And good evening to you all. I think it is typical to say that in any other country, Willie Rodriguez coming to speak, the sanctuary would be jammed to the rafters to hear this man we can call a witness to truth. And the fact that America does not provide him with the rafter-clinging crowds is symptomatic of what our country is like these days. I came to understand the huge importance, and I don't know where it first originated, what great philosopher coined it, but I, of course, came aware of it during the Vietnam War with the marvelous bumper sticker, "Question authority." And authority was partially questioned at that time, and it helped change the course of that war, the course of our government, and the people felt, in many respects, a greater strength than they had felt since World War II. There was divisiveness. The one chink in the armor was that we didn't respect our troops. So the enemy this time, to those who would deny this war, have come about with nothing but support the troops. If you don't support the troops, then you're a traitor. Well, I think most of us here would be very happy to support the troops by bringing them home. What greater support could we give than maintaining and sustaining human life in our troops. And so we must fight for that. We must fight for the symbol of the orange. And we must fight for the unbelievable ineffectuality of the American people in attempting to listen to the truth. An unbelievably shy people. I can't tell you the number of people I have been in the company of, scientists, learned gentlemen and ladies, an attempt to open, and I openly say I'm a conspiracy buff, at least as far as 9/11 goes. I believe in it fervently and with all my heart. And I said, if we have time, I will be glad to present the facts as I know them. And those facts have never been refuted. And if they have been refuted, the counter-arguments were never allowed to surface and be heard. And when I present these arguments to people I know and respect, whose intelligences I respect, they get that stare on their face. Oh, and sting music starts to play behind. Woo, 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 woo. Gotta get out of here. Here's another nutcase. No, it's emblematic of how blind our people are, to the extent that 50% still believe in creationism. The vast majority, we are so far behind the rest of the Western world in progressive attitudes towards life, the living, towards mankind. And that same blindness affects us on the truth for 9/11. And that's why I am so damn glad to be here tonight, to thank you all for coming to this important event, to rip the scales off your eyes and to hear yet another truth speaker named Willie Rodriguez. And the reason we've come together tonight is to pay tribute to this true hero. It's easy to label someone a hero. You know, somebody's even had the gall to occasionally refer to me that way, and man, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. A person who rushes into a burning building or even rescues a cat from a tree is expressing their belief that something other than their own well-being is important and valid and worth saving. That is a quality that is not only to be admired, but to be emulated. Oh. And how rarely does that emulation take place? But what about those people among us who take that extra step? Not only risking their own lives for others at a time of sheer panic and utter devastation, but doing it over and over again, and then speaking truth to power, no matter how frightening, no matter where it leads us as a nation. We had a 9/11 Truth Commission that went through like a three-ring circus. I think most of them were hired to rake the elephant. And they did rake the elephant, particularly the GOP elephant. They raked that elephant good, to the extent that nobody, even if there was no criminality, there was not even a brownie, i.e., the New Orleans hurricane, there was no brownie who was dispatched in the tragedy that occurred on 9/11. that a monumental level of incompetence that took this nation and allowed 3,000 people to die and eventually led us to war in 2 countries, and not one person has been disciplined, censured, fined, imprisoned for lack of competence. No. On September 11th, the entire planet experienced a tragedy. The world was there to serve us. One of proportions and effects that undoubtedly changed us all in perpetuity. We were told it was 19 Arabs, not 18, not 20, but 19 Arabs with box cutters, led by a man in a cave. Let's see, who was that? Methuselah? And we all believed what we were told. Besides, why would anyone lie about such a thing? As it turned out, of course, if we follow our research, a goodly proportion of those 19 Arabs identified by name were alive and living elsewhere. I never found out what the real names of the mistaken Arabs were, but the ones identified as such existed elsewhere, did not die in those crashes. It was also a day that many ordinary people in New York became extraordinary. One such extraordinary man is with us tonight. Under extreme pressure, not only did he put aside the natural reaction of fear, and how many of us know when and where we can do that? Something that can paralyze a person. But he embarked on a journey so massive, so life-changing, that it has expanded and changed the lives of people across the globe. Make no mistake, folks, this is a dangerous man to the Bush administration. His testimony, which was omitted from the 9/11 Commission, destroys the government's official story. And they know it. The corporate media also knows it. Thankfully, we have stations, radio stations like KPFK. Let's hear it. And fine organizations like C-SPAN who are willing to let his voice be heard. When the simple act of telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act, then we are all in for a bumpy ride. And we should all be there to cushion that bumpy ride for the person who helped show us the route. But if we could strive to be half as brave, half as determined as tonight's speaker, and perhaps we could change the course of history the way he did on September 11th. A man of strength, man of hope, and the last man out of the World Trade Center. Please give a warm welcome to someone who exemplifies the word hero, Mr. William Rodriguez. Kick ass.